This is Sehome Senior, Grady Evans, and you're listening to the Whatcom Preps podcast with Tyler and Ryland. Go Mariners!
Greetings and welcome into the Whatcom Preps podcast. This is episode 307, a state quarterfinal football preview. I am Tyler Anderson of Whatcom Preps. Ryland has been without power for over 48 hours to this point, and we wish him well. So I'm going Han Solo once again. I want to give a special thank you to Sehome Senior Grady Evans for the intro. Just an awesome player and an awesome person. Been doing it all on all three phases this year, whether it's wide receiver, defensive back, and of course as a kicker, breaking all sorts of school records as a kicker this year. So also want to give a shout out to KurtMayberryFarm.com. Kurt Mayberry Farm is a family farm committed to developing innovative agronomic and business practices to grow, process, and market high quality berries. Kurt Mayberry Farm is the Northwest berry supplier of choice. You can visit them at KurtMayberryFarm.com. That's Kurt with a C, Maberry, farm.com. And also, can't forget about NWOfficials.com. Do you live in Whatcom, Skagit, Island, or San Juan County and want to become an official? Officiating is a great way to give back to your community and ensure our youth have an opportunity to compete in athletics. So visit NWOfficials.com and find out how you could be an official today. It's perfect for basketball season coming up. You know, get on that and just find out. I mean, you probably start at the, younger youth level, maybe some junior high, stuff like that, and just work your way up. They're always needing people. So, glad to be, helping the cause here and trying to move that along. It's a great way to stay in shape, and it's a great way to learn about the game and give back to the community and get paid for it. So it's a win-win. Anyways, we have 4 games to look at for Saturday here. The first one, going chronologically, the very first one will be Nooksack Valley at 9-2, going across the mountains to take on Kashmir at 9-1. That'll be at 1 o'clock at Wenatchee's Apple Bowl. This is a great matchup here where, 4 versus 5, and at Kashmir, their only loss all year was to Royal. I think it was 55-14. Nooksack Valley, a few losses this year, one to Tumwater, one to Montesano, 2 teams that are still alive in the state playoffs as well. So I think that this is going to be one of the best matchups, just pure, pick-em type games over the weekend. Nooksack Valley is going to get Colton Lentz back. He hasn't, 2 weeks ago he played. He only carried the ball 4 times. So it's really been quite a while since he's been, turned loose and played a lot. It's been since that game at Linden Christian when they won the outright conference championship on the road there. So he'll be ready to go on both offense and defense. I really like where the Pioneers are at right now as far as just, everything's clicking. The lines have looked pretty good, getting a lot of different guys involved. All 3 levels on defense has been good. Tyler Martin, the kicker, has been great. Just his steady improvement throughout the whole year. There's just, it's hard to find a hole in that team right now. And, they've been to the semifinals now the last 2 years. They're going to try and make it 3 years in a row here with a win. I can't tell you a lot about Kashmir, to be honest with you. So I don't really know a ton of what to expect. But hey, they're 9-1 for a reason. They got that first round bye, and I don't know if that can help a team or hurt a team. I've heard both parts of it, where you're off for a week and it can kind of I don't know. It's different, right? Because you're not used to that routine, or you are used to a routine, and then this happens where you're not actually playing. I'm sure they did some sort of thing where they kind of did something to keep it as rhythmic as usual and just kind of keep it going, but we'll have to see. They don't have to go too far to go up to Wenatchee, and Nooksack Valley traveling across the mountains on that one. So it's a 1 p.m. game at Wenatchee's Apple Bowl, Nooksack Valley versus Kashmir, for a chance to go to the state semifinals in 1A. At 2 p.m., another game right kind of in that area. Linden Christian 7-4 traveling to Royal 10-0. Again, Royal now number one team in the state all year. Hasn't really had a tough competition this year. I think, they've the closest game they still won by 4 touchdowns. And then they're playing at home. So you kind of have all these things that collide together. Linden Christian's been on a heck of a run despite numerous injuries, especially to the skill positions. I'm sure a lot of them still won't be able to be playing, but you look on the sidelines in street clothes and you see a Trey Blair and an Austin Angles and a Jacob Penner and a Dawson Heinz and Mick Owen. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on, all these guys that will be out. And that's really, really tough. But sometimes it can galvanize a team and make them do things that they didn't think they could do, and it builds confidence, and they've been playing so well lately. But to go up against a team like Royal right now, I'll tell you this, though, Royal in the last, if you don't count this year because they haven't played any, well, I mean, I guess you can look over the last 3 years, counting this year, their 3 closest games have all been to Whatcom County teams. One of them being a loss, the last time Linden Christian went over to Royal, which was a few years ago. And one of them being a game last year against Linden Christian again, where it was 28-7. Royal won that one, but it was a 3-touchdown game. And the other one being the state championship that Royal won a couple years ago against Mount Baker. I believe they won by 15 points. So a 15-point win, a 21-point win, and a loss. Those have been their 3 closest games over the last 3 years. All of them against Whatcom County competition there. So we'll see. Royal has not played as tough as a schedule as Linden Christian has, but you play who's in front of you. And Royal, I'm sure they have a lot of trouble finding opponents. I'm sure 4A teams don't even want to play them because they know they would probably be in for it. So, and then it doesn't look good for them, right? So it's hard to schedule that team. So we'll have to see. I mean, this is going to be a really tough one for the Lynx. I would love to see this matchup next year, but this year it looks really strong for the Royal Knights. But again, having that week off, I don't know if it'll hurt them. I don't know if it'll help them. They might have, some bruises and stuff like that. And every team by this point of the year has got a lot of kids that are banged up, and so maybe it will really, really help them. Again, that's at 2 p.m. at Royal High School. Linden Christian taking on the top-seeded Royal Knights. At the exact same time, 2 p.m. on Saturday at Ferndale High School, Linden will be hosting Archbishop Murphy. Linden 10-1 on the season, Archbishop Murphy 9-1 on the season. Archbishop had a bye week during the regular season, so they played one less game. The Lions, their one loss all year came to Anacortes, and Archbishop Murphy's one loss all year, well, that came to Linden in that game out at Rolly DeCoster Field where it was 7-3 in a muddy sideways rain slugfest where Archbishop Murphy had trouble with the grass, the field, the mud, trying to get their footing. The pulling guards kept falling. The stuff that they do, it wasn't conducive to that environment. And that really, that game really spring-loaded Linden forward for the rest of their season, and they've been on a roll right now. I mean, it's hard to find a hotter team right now than the Linden Lions, and they've been loving these games at Ferndale. I mean, they're just scheduling this will be their 3rd week in a row playing at Ferndale, and they've put up some huge numbers there. I think what was it, 66-7 the first game, and then it was 38-6 the second game. So their defense their first string defense hasn't allowed a touchdown in the last couple of weeks, hasn't allowed a point in the last couple of weeks, I should say. And but this is going to be interesting because so many people have said, I've talked to some announcers, I've talked to some assistant coaches, and they all say it's tough to beat a team twice. And I'm really curious to see what the Wildcats will do on turf. So, all those things considered, that's going to be really tough for Linden. But I tell you what, when the Lions get into the playoffs, they just kind of turn it up another notch, and they're just a little bit better. And because they know what it takes. I mean, they've had all these deep runs recently. Last year, their season ended in this round, the quarterfinal round. It was kind of kind of a surprise, I would say. But the 2 years before that, they won state championships, and so there's still a lot of guys on that team that have, played, that did a lot of playing for the state championship. I mean, you look at the Brant Hepners and Isaiah Oudmans and Blake Holmans and those kinds of guys. These guys, were big time players on that state championship run just a couple years ago. So this is going to be a really, really good game. I mean, because I think if it stays close, I think Linden has the better edge there just because their coaching is so good. But if it starts getting out of hand, I could see it getting out of hand the other way because Archbishop can just rack up points so fast. It's not saying that Linden can't, but I've just seen it so many times with the Wildcats where it's really, really tough. I really like Linden's, you know, defensive coaching staff looking at all the different things that Archbishop does, moving the ball on the ground, and they're so good at having their players learn discipline on what they need to do and do your job. And if they can have discipline and follow what they're supposed to do, they can stop that Wildcat running attack. That's what it comes down to. You're trying to get, 15 and 16-year-olds to be disciplined. That's pretty tough. So, but that Linden coaching staff is really good at instilling that into their young players. So this is going to be a great one. This is probably where I'm going to be since it's the only one in the county. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome game. I mean, it's just, another 4 versus 5 matchup, and two teams that have played each other a little bit, recently now. So they know each other pretty well. So that'll be 2 p.m. at Ferndale High School, Archbishop Murphy and Linden, both with just one loss on the year, trying to get one step closer to the gold ball at Husky Stadium. The final game this weekend will be Sehome at 8-3. They're going to travel over to Tumwater, who's 11-0. That'll be at 3 p.m. at Tumwater High School. And boy, the Mariners right now, they're in the quarterfinals for the third time in school history. They've never been to the semifinals in school history, and this is one tall task to try to beat Tumwater. Tumwater, at the beginning of the year, I was kind of flipping and flopping, from a lot of different places on who the number one team in 2A was. Was it Tumwater? Was it Anacortes? Once Anacortes dropped that game to Archbishop Murphy midway through the year, then it kind of shot Tumwater ahead with, kind of a stronghold of that number one spot, and they haven't let it go since. I've only seen the Thunderbirds play once this year. They were hosting Nooksack Valley, and they looked fantastic. They looked huge. They looked fast. Their line was out of this world. That was early in the year. That was week 4, so that was 2 months ago when I saw them. But, Tumwater's Tumwater. They just find a way. They're very much like Royal and these programs that have just been great for so long. And Linden's like that too. I mean, they have this tradition where they just win all the time, and they know what it takes, and they build it up from youth, and they keep going, and they're just so good. Sehome Mariners, I mean. Boy, that was a heck of a game last week. Could have been the game of the year. How everything went with the blocked punt late, going for 2 late, getting it, and just, I mean, that momentum switch right with like 2 minutes to go in the game just did it for the Mariners. And if the Sehome Mariners can pull off some more plays like that, I mean, who knows what they're going to do? Whether it's going to be a surprise onside or just you just don't know. Andre Watson, he's tough to stop. Nolan Wright, when he gets cooking, I mean, he can move around in that pocket. He's a threat to run. He makes a few, takes a few chances throwing the ball because he believes in himself, and I like that. So there's a few interceptions every once in a while, but when you have a player that's like that, you can give him that, that okay and say you do it. And he's one of those players, now in his 3rd year as a starting quarterback at Sehome High School. He knows everything about that offense. He knows his strengths. He knows where to roll out, how to roll out, when to run, everything. So We'll have to see. And I loved how, Al Miller came out last week and did so well. And, Cooper McAtee at tight end and all these other receivers, Grady Evans, who gave us the intro. And who knows? I don't know if Theo Quiggle will be back, but he's another huge target at 6'4". Um, they've been missing Fisher Hall the last couple of weeks. I really hope he can come back because he is such a game changer, not just on defense from his linebacker spot, but covering kicks on kickoffs, things like that. You can't have any big play spring you loose. That was one thing that Tumwater struggled with a little bit against Nooksack was covering kickoffs. So, if Watson he might be able to spring one on a kick return and bring it in for a touchdown because I think Evan Bravo had like a 70-yard kickoff return against them. He did not get into the end zone, but it was a huge return. So they're going to need some big plays like that. You don't block a lot of punts during the year. They may have used up their one on the year last week, but they needed it. It'd be great if they can get another one here. Just forcing Tumwater to punt will be a huge accomplishment. They're such a strong team. So Sehome at Tumwater at 3 p.m. Down I-5 there a little ways. Tumwater again 11-0 on the season. The Mariners are 8-3. So those are your 4 games. We're gonna have to find out. The weather has been a little crazy in Washington State this week with this bomb cyclone stuff. It's affecting some places more than others, and this will be a really interesting weather forecast from our weatherman Randy Small. Randy, take it away.
Hey everyone, it's Randy Small, Whatcom County weather, and we've just come off a crazy windstorm last night. I'm recording this on Wednesday early afternoon, but looking ahead to Saturday's games, everything is on Saturday this weekend. I've actually checked Cashmere's weather, Royal City's weather, and Whatcom County, as well as Tumwater's weather. And it kind of goes that Tumwater and Ferndale are similar forecasts. Chance of showers on Saturday. At this point on Wednesday, doesn't seem like a lot, but this could change, of course, as we get closer. But I definitely put out a chance of showers. So chance of rain, chance of showers, pretty high. Just depends on where in the area will actually the showers happen. Wind could be a little breezy in Ferndale. I'm not sure about Tumwater. Didn't look at the wind very closely there. Regarding east of the mountains, Royal City might have the best forecast. It'll be cool and maybe some clearing at times. And then Cashmere has a 20% chance of snow / chance of rain. I doubt it's going to be much. Probably just cool and crisp over there overall, maybe just a little bit of precip. The temps for the west side is also going to be on the cool side in the mid-40s. So overall, I think at this point, the weather shouldn't be too much of a factor at this point. Okay. Good luck to all the teams that are left, and we'll hopefully check in with another report for the semifinals next weekend.
All right, thanks, Randy. Check out all his stuff at, WhatcomCountyWX.com. That's the website. And you could, see his stuff on Twitter, the Facebook page, facebook.com/Whatcom County Weather. I thought I had a lot of followers. That's nothing. I mean, he's got like 30, 40,000 followers, maybe close to 50,000 now on his Facebook page. I'm trying to get to 7,000 right now. I'm getting really close. I just got a few more. Tell your friends and family. So, yeah, the forecast, we'll see how that goes. The weather could play a little bit into these games because it sure did last week. You saw a lot of teams that had to kind of change their game plan and do some different things, and the weather can play a factor. That's just the way that it is. So thank you again, Randy Small, for that. We're going to go to our pick'ems now, and we're all doing pretty well here. The guests are still leading with a 67-18 overall record. Unbelievable, beating Joe consensus right now. Joe just one game behind the guest at 66-19. I'm a few more games back at 64-21. Ryland is at 63-22, and Michaela and Jeff are both 62-23. So we're all basically winning, 2/3 of our games, or 3/4 almost. So we're doing okay there. Our guest picker this week is Randy Farmer. You've probably heard him doing play-by-play for football games on KPUG and KGMI, and does a great job with him and colorman Rick Todd. And Randy Farmer, a Sehome graduate, so is interested in how they're going to be doing. I'm pretty sure him and Rick will be going over the mountains to call the Nooksack Valley Cashmere game on KPUG. So be sure to listen for that. KGMI, Jim Bring and Dan Kamink will give you the call of the Linden Archbishop Murphy game. But Randy Farmer is our guest picker this week. And as the picks turn out, only Jeff and Michaela are picking Linden Christian to defeat Royal, and only Jeff is picking Sehome to defeat Tumwater. So Jeff is going straight up homer, picking all the Whatcom County teams. As far as the other two games, we are all picking Nooksack Valley to beat Cashmere. We are all picking Linden to beat Archbishop Murphy. So it's getting down to the thick of it here, and we're all still pretty close together here. So we'll see if there's any jockeying for position there. And so thanks again, Randy Farmer, for agreeing to be our guest picker this week, and good luck to you. And that takes us to the fantasy standings right now. I am 6-5. Ryland is 5-6. So this week could be huge, especially if some teams get knocked out, because that kind of eliminates the game. For instance, if he gets me this week and then we only have a few teams left, that's probably it. I don't know how we're going to do it, if we're going to continue. But right now I hold a 1-game advantage, and I did win last week, which means he gets to pick first. He had a little bit of availability on his cell phone today. He didn't want to use too much of it because he needs it to be his alarm clock tomorrow morning so he can wake up and go to work. But with him being without power, but I said, hey man, we have to do our fantasy picks, and he's like, you got it. So he had the first pick, and he took Colton Lentz, running back from Nooksack Valley. Obviously him waiting to play. He's expecting a big breakout game. I think we all are. So not a bad pick there. That leaves me with 2 picks. And I went with Brant Hepner, the quarterback from Linden, who, when it gets to the playoffs time, he just turns it on and he knows what it takes. He's won 5 state championships now in his career. In different sports and stuff like that. So he obviously knows what it takes. And I also went with Andre Watson the wide receiver from Sehome. It's hard to pick against that guy. He just keeps putting up numbers. And you look at last week where he had something like 7 catches for, 86 yards and 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. You go, man, that's unbelievable. But to him, that's a down week. So I'll take those numbers all day. Then Ryland had 2 picks, and he stayed purple here. He went Nooksack Valley offensive line, and he went Colton Lentz front 7. So he's doing what he does quite a bit, where he picks the same guy on both sides of the ball there, really hoping for a big-time game there. And, if he wasn't going to take Lentz there, I was probably going to take him after that defensively. So not surprised that he took him. It did kind of throw me for a backup plan that I had to do. So when I picked, I went Tyler Martin, kicker from Nooksack Valley, just a freshman, but I tell you, he's really steadily improved this year, and I think he could have a big game. And then I chose Hudson Neff from Sehome for my back 7 player. I just think that he's such a good tackler, and Tumwater can really run the ball, and they're really good at, kind of getting through that first wave. So he might have a lot of chances back there, being that last chance to make the stop. So I think he can really rack up the numbers there. Ryland then picked in the back 7. He went with another linebacker. He chose Trey Bosman, the senior from Linden Christian. And then as a defensive team, he chose Nooksack Valley. So staying in the 1As primarily, he was doing right there. And after that, I picked Lance Van Berkom to be in my front 7, the Nooksack Valley defensive end, who is really every single week just gets better and better, and it couldn't come at a better time for the Pioneers right now. And I also took Lyndon Christian's offensive line. We're just gonna go with it and see what we do here, and you just never know. I think they can put up some yards here, so we'll see how it goes. If you get into the end zone a few times, even better. Ryland then took Grady Evans, Sehome kicker, and then Isaiah Audman, tight end from Lyndon, as his receiver. So going into the 2As a little bit there. I like it, picking guys from other teams. So with my last 2 picks, I chose Hollis Owen, running back from Lyndon Christian. I just have a feeling, and I just think that, he's gonna, being a senior, he's gonna put everything out there that he can, and he's at full strength now, which I love. And I'm gonna go with Lyndon's defense. I talked about it a little bit earlier. I don't know. I just think they've all bought in at the right time, and they're swarming to the ball so well, and those coaches are so great on the defensive side. So yeah, I'm going to go Lyndon Lions defense. And with the last pick, Ryland needed a quarterback, and he chose Nolan Wright. Might as well. He's a dual threat, running, passing, doing it all. And he's going to need to have a big game for the Mariners to have a chance there. So if you look over the teams, I have Brant Hepner at quarterback. He has Nolan Wright. At running back, I have Hollis Owen. Ryland has Colton Lentz. At receiver, I have Andre Watson. Ryland has Isaiah Audman. At offensive line, I have Lyndon Christian. Ryland has Nooksack Valley. For team defense, I have Lyndon. Ryland has Nooksack Valley. For front 7, I have Lance Van Berkom. Ryland has Colton Lentz. For back 7, I have Hudson Neff. Ryland has Trey Bosman. And at kicker, I have Tyler Martin, and Ryland has Grady Evans. So that's about it. It's a little shorter podcast than usual. Usually Ryland and I rattle on for a little bit. We take some left turns and start talking about food or 80s baseball, or you just kind of never know where we're going to go. But pretty short and sweet this week. Hopefully, by the time we can recap these games, Ryland will be back. So yeah, that's it. And you've been listening to the Whatcom Preps podcast. This is episode 307, a state quarterfinal football preview. I'm Tyler Anderson with Whatcom Preps, and we'll talk to you in a couple of days. Have a great weekend, everybody.